Wow, this house is cute. But can I really get in the game in this economy? I do have savings, and I am responsible-ish. Ugh, I should bury it. I'm being wild. But what if I'm not being wild, though? Could I actually score a...
Kick off your home buying journey with Zillow's new BuyAbility tool. It makes it easy to find out what you can afford, so you can get off the bench and onto the playing field with confidence. Check your BuyAbility, only on Zillow.
The kids are still at practice, and I have no idea what's for dinner.
You can get a rotisserie chicken and 2 sides for just $15 in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Who said that? Who's in my house? Don't play with me, because I'm not the one.
It's just your friendly Walmart announcer. This is a commercial.
Oh, okay. You were saying dinner for a family was just $15?
Yep, it'll be at your door by the time you get the kids home from practice. Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Subject to availability, restrictions and fees apply.
Now that was a helpful commercial.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Oh, okay. I went full 80s sitcom for a second.
Yeah, we have to make sure the podcast listeners didn't think everything just cut out.
Yeah, right. Welcome everyone to the Saturday brunch edition of No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We're presented by Belly Up Sports. My name is Ryan McCarthy. I'm one of the hosts. To my right is broadcasting today from parts unknown. Weight unknown. Dustin Henry. Dustin, how are we doing this morning?
I'm doing all right. My weight truly is unknown because I will be honest this morning. Honesty is the best policy. I am running on Dunkin'. So I've had a breakfast sandwich, hash browns, minis, and a blueberry cake donut. So I'm not stepping on the scale. All right. My weight truly is unknown because I don't want to know. But it was pretty good. I gotta love the blueberry cake donuts.
Oh, the
Happy
blueberry
to be
cake
here
is
with you.
top tier.
Yeah, it's real nice. A+. Happy to be here with you. How are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing well. Today, locally, actually last week, a lot of ice cream places started opening up. And then yesterday, the ice cream man, Mr. Dingaling, was swinging by the neighborhood.
Oh, man.
So, it's spring is on its way, and Mr. Dingaling is coming around.
Yeah, super happy. It's supposed to be nice and warm, relatively warm for this time of year this weekend. The days are longer. It's coming. We're about to enter my favorite, summer's my favorite season, but I really like that late May, the early to late May, because that's when it starts to make the switch and the days are still getting longer. That's one of my favorite times of year. Love it.
It's fun. It's fun because it's baseball season starting up.
Mm-hmm.
March Madness is coming. Hockey season is starting to wind down. So the playoffs are coming next month. So yeah, it's the best time of the year as far as yes, you could argue October is also a very good time of year too.
Yes, we had this debate.
We had
this debate for the list. Go back into the archives if you haven't seen it. But yeah, April and October, you can't go wrong either way. The draft is coming up. We're gonna have some coverage about that. I imagine it'll be a little more serious than our mock draft was, but draft is one of the favorite things that was one of your best ideas yet. I mean, that was a fun thing to do, but like you said, we kind of exhausted all the resources for that, so that will not be a yearly occurrence.
Yeah, no, it won't. It won't. It's just a once a year thing.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna talk today. Here's what's on the menu for the Saturday brunch edition of No Credentials Required. We're talking parts 3 and 4 of Charlie Hustle and the Matter of Pete Rose. We're gonna have Dustin's reaction to his Seattle Seahawks signing Cooper Kupp. which was a huge deal. At least to me. I don't know how it is for Dustin. Well, no spoilers. We're gonna do our hot food takes. We're gonna do pizza topping rankings, and talk about our favorite athletes to wear the number 19. But before we do that, I just want to remind you about our social media channels. You can follow us everywhere on social media. The standard social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Find us at No Credentials Required. Also, check out our other podcasts and articles on bellyupsports.com. On the podcast side, subscribe to the podcast wherever you find podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, and Pandora. And also, don't forget to hit that notification bell, whether it's on Twitter or it's on YouTube. That way you know when show announcements go up, when videos go up, when we're live on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. Also, on Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Today we're live on our YouTube channel, our Twitter channel, and the Belly Up Sports Facebook channel. So we got some comments rolling in already. We'll get to those in a moment. Which is a good reminder to please rate on the podcast side. Rate, review, comment, rate and review. A 5-star rating would be very helpful with the rating. If you're on a platform where you can review, give us a review. And if you're on Spotify, leave a comment. You can comment on every episode. And again, we are a live show Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern and Saturdays 10 a.m. Eastern. We had some comments rolling in the comment section, but we want to remind you, Dustin, even though you're in a different location, it's always the same time.
Yeah. The watch still works the same. It's chime time.
All right, we got some comments rolling in. Wonka the Sane, friend of the show, saying hashtag Team October. Okay.
It's a strong argument, Wonko.
It's a very strong argument. Matt from Corner Booth saying MILF, man, I love football. As opposed to Mom, anyway.
Yeah.
He asked a question already. What are your guys' thoughts? I think the offense, this is regarding Cooper Kupp signing. You know what? That. So he says, I think the offense of the Seahawks is on a downgrade. DK for Kupp, Lockett for MVS. I think he's referring to, I'm not sure who's
Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Okay, thank you. Geno Smith overall better than Sam. Just my opinion. I have a fear we're going to see the old Sam Darnold running behind the Seahawks O-line. But what are your guys' thoughts? I mean, Matt is a Jets fan. I believe he's a season ticket holder, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
So, but Matt's a good guy. I've been on Corner Booth many a time on the pregame show with him and Jared and Nate. So, Dustin, you know what? Let's lead off with this. Let's lead off with the show. Let's lead the show with. Actually, you know what? I gotta play it. I gotta play the Loch Ness Monster free agency update. Here we go.
I need about 350.
All right, Dustin, the floor is yours. What's your reaction to Cooper Kupp signing with the Seattle Seahawks?
Okay, so here's my thing, and not to spoil it, but Matt hit the nail right on the head. My worry now you'll have to tune into Seahawks Sessions. We're thinking maybe a show next week. Kevin and one Mr. Staniel Smooth, if I may speak for them, they are more positive on the Sam Darnold signing. And it's not that I am negative on Sam. Like I told you, though, we have more data to suggest that he's going to regress from what he did last year. And kind of be more of the Sam Darnold that we were familiar with. Now, I hope he doesn't as a fan. But yes, Matt hit the nail on the head. Sam Darnold is not as mobile as Geno Smith is. People forget Geno could move a little bit. What I do like about the Darnold signing is he is younger, and I would say on par his numbers are at least on par with Geno's. And I like the fact that they got younger at the position. However, Sam, behind that Seahawks offensive line, I have worries because they have not done yet. Supposedly they are talking to Mekhi Becton. They are interested in Mekhi Becton. If we get the Eagles version of Mekhi Becton, if he were to sign, I would be very happy about that. But the offensive line is where I'm mostly concerned. Marquez Valdez-Scantling doesn't move the needle for me at all. I know he did well last year in New Orleans for a spell after some injuries hit them, but Marquez Valdez-Scantling, as Kevin said in our Seahawks Twitter chat that Staniel and I have going, he doesn't move the needle at all. He doesn't move the needle at all for me. So MVS is definitely a downgrade. Cooper Kupp, if we were getting the Cooper Kupp of 3 years ago, I'd say this is fantastic. Now, Cooper, injuries have sapped him of some of what he was, but we've seen just, I think it was the year before last, he came back and he was very, very good. He was a reception machine for the Rams. So if he can do some of that, I do like this deal, but I do agree with Matt. It is a downgrade over, DK's gone. DK, I think, is better than Cooper Kupp. Tyler Lockett, I don't know. You could argue where Tyler was at this stage. I love Tyler Lockett. I picked him as my favorite number 16. But you could argue at where he was and is in his career at this stage. I would say Kupp is an upgrade, but we need to hope. Kupp's a little older now, and injuries have sapped him of what he was. So I'm not as over the moon about this signing as I would have been. But as another target across from Jackson Smith-Njigba, I like the deal. I think it's a good deal, and Cooper Kupp is coming home. He went to college in Washington. A lot of Rams fans are very mad, but you can't fault him for wanting to come home. And the Rams didn't want him anymore. And I think Cooper Kupp is going to be very motivated. He signed with one of the Rams' chief rivals. He probably signed partially, one, to come home, but two, because you get to face the Rams multiple times a year now, and you get to show them, hopefully, what they missed.
Matt in the comment section correcting me, saying he's no longer a Jet season ticket holder. 10 years, tickets increased 50% since 2022, so he had to drop them.
Oh man, yeah, that's tough. That's tough. And I like some of the moves. Initially, I was not happy with how the Seahawks opened free agency and all the change. I don't do well with change sometimes, especially when your team won 10 games last year. But the thing is, as I've had a little bit of time, if they keep going in this direction, but please, for the love of all that is holy, you have the draft picks now. I think they have 13 draft picks, counting the compensatory picks that they received. Build the line. Use those picks in a trade. Get some offensive line upgrades. Focus on the line, John Schneider. Please. You never did it with Pete Carroll. Do it now. Focus on the line and actually hit, because they have drafted some offensive linemen higher up, but they didn't work out. So please. And I don't like the fact that you got rid of Fant, because he was a versatile tackle. He could play in any position along the line if needed, was good injury depth. So please have a plan for that offensive line. I hope you do.
So according to the Seattle Seahawks official website, they have 8 picks, 3, and they were awarded 3 compensatory. So they had 5, now they have 8. So they have number 18, 50, 82, 137, 172, 175, 185, and 234. So they have two 5th round picks. They have a 4th round, and they have a 4th round pick.
Well, and they got the 3rd for Geno. They got for Metcalf, they got a 2nd and a 4th. So I'm just trying to remember, but I thought they had more picks than that. We'll have to see.
They might be for 2026.
Oh, okay. But maybe some of the stuff didn't become official yet too. I don't know. I'll have to see. I'll have to do some research.
I'm going to give you some optimism. And I'll say this. At least John Schneider is doing for Sam Darnold what Mike McCagnon did not do, or Joe Douglas for that matter, did not do for Sam Darnold when he was a New York Jet. He did not provide him with talent. They signed Le'Veon Bell to that albatross of a contract when they knew he was a year removed from being in game shape, and also he did not fit into Adam Gase's offense at all. And I remember the let's talk Jets radio. The day that the Jets released Le'Veon Bell, they exploded. They had a bleep fit. Let's put it that way. But back to my point. John Schneider is doing what Joe Douglas and Mike McCagnon especially did not do for Sam Darnold, in that he's got weapons. He's got Kenneth Walker in the backfield. He's got Zach Charbonnet to spell him. You've got Cooper Kupp. You've got Jackson Smith and Jigba, who I think is going to have a breakout year this year.
I think so. But he might struggle a little bit more because DK, and I will say this till I'm blue in the face, DK was drawing double teams, which allowed Jackson Smith and Jigba to flourish, and they moved Jackson Smith and Jigba to the slot last year, which was a pro move. I almost hope they keep him in the slot because he did an amazing job in the slot. But who knows? Because you do have Cody White, they re-signed him. You have Jake Bobo. So I don't know how it's going to shake out. And you do have MVS, as much as that signing doesn't thrill me, but
it's not going to thrill you because it's not a big name. So that's part of it. And the other part of it is that he's been everywhere. He's been to Kansas City. He's been in New Orleans. He played in New Orleans last year. He went to I think he went to New England, if I'm not mistaken. Or that was Juju Smith-Schuster. Never mind.
Yeah, Smith-Schuster was in New England. MVS was also in Green Bay for a while with Aaron there. But that's my point. He, if I remember correctly, he did not thrive in Kansas City. And if you cannot thrive with Patrick Mahomes or prime Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, respectively, then, what are you? But he did have some moments in New Orleans last year, and maybe Clint Kubiak unlocked something in him. Who knows? Yep.
Well, that's been our Loch Ness Monster free agency tracker update.
I need about 350.
I love that element.
It's a good one. It's always nice when we get to bring it back.
It is.
There's certain things, like I love the Saturday brunch jazz edition. I was looking today to see what was in there. It looked like they threw a bowl of cornflakes in that brunch. I'm going to tell you, if somebody comes out with a bowl of cornflakes for brunch for me, I'm not going to be happy. There's a myriad of cereals to choose from.
I'll slap it out of your hands and go tell you to get some eggs. That's what I'll do. Speaking of food, it's another edition of Hot Food Takes. In this edition of Hot Food Takes, I thought about it yesterday. Oh, actually, before we get to Hot Food Takes, Wanko says he likes but doesn't love Seattle's wide receiver moves. All points in one direction, commitment to the run.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why they brought Clint Kubiak in there. Mike McDonald wanted a bigger focus on the run. But to run, you must have good running backs, but you also must have a good offensive line.
It's true. It's true. All right, Hot Food Takes. Thought about this last night, yesterday afternoon. While Dustin and I are texting back and forth about the show rundown, I said to myself, we haven't done pizza toppings.
Yeah, that one surprised me.
Yeah, that one surprised me too. So I thought to myself, all right, let's do a quick pizza toppings rankings. So I'm gonna have you lead off, Dustin, in regards to your preferred toppings for pizza. So go right ahead.
Okay, what are we doing though? Top 3, top 5? Should
Let's
we
do
do a
top 3
Yeah,
because
top
if we go
3.
top 5, then it'll just
Yeah.
go all over the place.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna count backwards,
Yes.
as I usually do. I'm gonna put number 3. Number 3 is bacon. I like a nice bacon on pizza. It's good, and you can pair it with other things. I'm not gonna get into like double toppings. Like I'm not gonna do tomato
Right.
bacon ranch, all that stuff. This is just gonna be strictly one topping for me. Okay, one topping.
Mhm.
And I'll cheat a little bit. It's a tie between bacon and sausage. I like them both. That's my number 3 slot. Um, bacon just adds something nice to the pizza. It goes along with it, gives it a little crunch, and who doesn't love bacon? And cooked on top of a pizza, you got the little bit of the char there. It's delicious. And same goes for sausage. Although don't do what Papa John's did to me when I was taking my mother home from chemo, and she said she wanted sausage pizza, and we stopped. And they put breakfast sausage on a pizza. Papa John's were like the only ones open, and Mom wasn't feeling well. We had to get home fast.
Mhm.
Awful, awful. Breakfast sausage on a pizza. Come on. Anyway, that's not a way you do it better, Papa John's. Okay, number 2. Number 2 for me, I'm going plain Jane, just cheese. I love a classic cheese if it's done well. I love it, and that's also you could do like a white cheese pizza. Also love that. You put a little garlic on there, something else. Love it. Cheese pizza is the measuring stick for all pizzas. You're going to get a basic cheese when you're trying to grade a new pizza place because that's what you want. That's the measuring stick. That is stick. That's like my General Tso's chicken at a Chinese restaurant for me. And number 1 with a bullet, without any question, I love pepperoni. Pepperoni pizza. Pepperoni is the topping for me. It is the go-to whenever I am ordering pizza. And I love, sometimes you get the thinner pepperoni and it crisps up. Sometimes you get the Kupp pepperoni. Sometimes you can go a little thicker. There's so many things that you could do with pepperoni. It is a little greasy, but I like it. I think it adds to the overall experience of the pizza. Just delicious. And honorable shout out to the Kind of Funny podcast. If any of those guys are listening, they came up with an act. They said it's the Pepperoni Diplomacy Act. I think it was 2023 when they came up with this. When you are ordering a pizza for a large gathering, always get more pepperoni than you realize because people mess around and they get all these crazy toppings. What are the pizzas that go first? The pepperoni pizzas. They get eaten. So you should always order more pepperoni than you think. Don't try to overthink the room. Honorable shout out to those guys. The Pepperoni Diplomacy Act. I agree with it. More pepperoni pizza. It's my number 1. It may be, you can call me basic, but don't mess with a classic. I love pepperoni.
So I looked it up, and it's the Pepperoni Diplomacy Act of 2019. Kind of funny podcast.
Oh God! Oh man, time is crazy. Okay, well, I listen to those guys every week. For many years since the company was founded in 2014. So it's been a while, and I was listening to Greg Miller and Colin Moriarty on Podcast Beyond before that. Shout out to both those guys respectively. They run, their own companies now. Kind of funny. Greg's still there. Colin's got his thing. I listen to them both. Shout out to those guys. But wow, the Pepperoni Diplomacy Act was 2019. I was way off.
2019 seems like a long time ago.
Yes, it does.
Man.
Yes, it does.
So for my 3 toppings, because we're just going to keep it short because we got a lot more to cover. Before we talk about Charlie Hustle, the matter of Pete Rose. So I'm going to go kind of unconventional for my toppings here. So
okay.
So number 3, crispy chicken.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, crispy chicken. Yeah, I there's a couple places in my area that have a nice barbecue chicken pizza.
Mm-hmm.
They do a pretty good job with the barbecue chicken pizza. Here's the thing. One place they put the barbecue sauce on top. The other place makes the barbecue sauce as the base. Yeah.
Which do you prefer? Which do you like it as the base or on top? Like a drizzle?
I like it as the base.
Okay. Yeah.
But
yeah, because
crispy
it
chicken
kind of
is
mixes in with the cheese and
yeah. So crispy chicken is growing on me. So it's one of my top toppings. So that's number 3. Number 2, and my mom when I was a teenager, I'm gonna say ground beef. Ground beef / meatball.
Okay, yeah, meatball, yeah.
Because when I was younger, in my teenage years and early 20s, when I was living with my parents, my mom, shut up, mom.
Yeah.
She used to make, like when friends over, she used to make pizzas. Like she get the dough from the supermarket, get the sauce, and what she would do is that she would put ground beef on the pizza, and it would cook as the pizza was cooking.
Oh, nice.
And that was some bomb pizza. So good. So good. And number 1 is bacon.
Bacon, number 1. Very, very respectable. Very respectable.
Is my number 1. Bacon is my number 1 topping. I didn't really discover bacon as a topping until a long time ago, but in my adult years, not so much my teenage years or my childhood years, but my adult years. Because when you're a kid, it's the basics: pepperoni, sausage. Every once in a while, you get yourself a vegetable like a sauce, peppers and onions.
Yeah.
If you're into it, mushrooms. Not my style, but hey, everybody has their own thing.
Yeah.
But then as you grow into adulthood and you see more and more pizza varieties out there, more pizza restaurants open up, like the flavor, the toppings have just exploded because people like to do artisanal pizzas. One of our favorite places, Speckled Pig.
Oh yeah.
They do a prosciutto and fig pizza.
Oh man, yeah, that's Amanda wanted me to make a pizza like that. It was something with fig, and I think it might have been that. And I agree with you, Ryan. Some of the toppings, I used hot honey as a topping on pizza one time. A lot of places are doing that now.
Yep.
One of my favorite, pancetta and arugula. Try it if you haven't. It's good. There's a lot out there that we can do. But yeah, I agree with you. When you're a kid, it's basic. And my top 3 probably pretty basic. But you know what? I didn't want to overthink the room. What are my go-tos? They are some of my go-tos. I will experiment. Meatball and onion, one of my favorite combo toppings. But this kind of isn't what we were doing today. We were doing topping ranking, and man, anytime I could talk about pizza for hours, so I better cut myself off.
Let's do a special edition of No Kitchen Required where we do a pizza topping extravaganza.
And Ryan, I got an idea for baseball. I gotta get a bunch of the guys together, some of our normal football crew that I do. If the weather's nice, cigars, patio, hot dog bar.
Nice.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that.
Don't shame me for putting ketchup on my hot dog.
I won't shame you.
Comments in the comments section. Sigdigi joining us from Scandinavia, Norway. To be specific, he says, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. He also says, do hesitate to label me as a blasphemer for liking pineapple on my pizza. Shame! He also says, I also like tuna and mushrooms on mine. I have no shame in being weird. Now, I got a question for you, Sid. Can you clarify this for me? Is it tuna from the can, like chicken from the like chicken of the sea, or is it like actual tuna that's like sushi tuna? So I need a delineation before. I need a difference between so I can make my judgment.
Yeah. I mean, either way. I mean, I can get down on mushrooms on pizza for sure, if they're a certain kind. But yeah, I don't know about the tuna. If it's sushi grade tuna, I can get down on that a little bit. But
he says tuna from the can.
Oh man, that's sick. I agree with you on a lot of things. We've had a lot of banter here on the show. We agreed about the Ace Ventura pick by the Miami Dolphins a few weeks ago, but this This is another level, my friend. I don't know if I can co-sign this one.
He also says up here in Norway they use, I think it's pronounced Roma, with their pizza, which is sour cream. So I suspect it would be kind of like a ranch dressing. Like some people like to put the ranch, they do ranch on their dressing, or ranch dressing on the side of their pizza, like to dip it crust into it, and especially with the buffalo chicken.
Oh yeah,
buffalo chicken pizza. It's a big item up here in upstate New York. And he says I remember my mom would add olives. Olives can go back to the ground where they came from because they taste like dirt, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I always, whenever people ask me, okay, what do you want on your pizza? I always say, okay, it's quicker for me to tell you what I don't want. And olives, anchovies, they're always the answers. Like, we can get pineapple, olives, and anchovies. We can get almost anything else you want, but don't get me those three things.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, mushrooms and olives are a no thank you, hefty no thank you from me when it comes to pizza. Oh, he says it's pronounced Roma. Okay.
Okay.
Look, I don't Norwegian's not my native tongue.
Yeah.
I tried. I know 2 languages. I know English, which is I barely speak it.
Yeah.
even as an American, and very bad French. So there you go. That has been this edition of Hot Food Takes. All right, we're going to get into parts 3 and 4 of Charlie Hustle and the matter of Pete Rose. I said last week, I said it was a case of Pete Rose. It's the matter of Pete Rose. My bad. I got to get the title right. So we're talking parts 3 and 4. Last Saturday, we talked about parts 1 and 2, about his early career, about some of the decisions he made, and how everything kind of ramped up to present day. And parts 3 and 4 focus primarily on his managing of the Reds, his betting on baseball, his banishment from baseball, his jail sentence, and life after his jail sentence. So
yeah,
I know you've got notes, Dustin.
I do.
So I'm gonna have you begin your take on these 2 episodes. So whenever you're ready, go right ahead. You lead us off.
All right. And I'll try to keep this relatively quick, although I realize for me sometimes that's a struggle. But the thing that stuck out, especially in episode 3, because I always associated Pete Rose with the Cincinnati Reds, and I just plain didn't realize how long he played for the Phillies as well. I had forgotten about that. But Mike Schmidt was extremely complimentary of Pete Rose and credits him with assisting with his development as a baseball player and taught him how to be consistent. Now, some of that is Pete Rose's words. Of course, Pete Rose took some credit for the development of one Michael Jack Schmidt, but Mike Schmidt agreed with him. He was extremely complimentary of Rose as a player, but it also, this documentary overall, and they really hammered it in episode 3 to me, Ryan. And I have to see if you agree when we get to your takes, but they keep going with the theme of the player versus the man, versus the man. And this is the whole thing that they keep focusing on. And it gets into his exchange with Alex Coffey of the Philadelphia Inquirer, I think.
Yep.
He went back to an event in Philly. This was kind of like, it seemed to me like an olive branch offering by Major League Baseball. Hey, we'll have you at this event or whatever. And it seemed like things are thawing a little bit between Pete Rose and baseball. And you're saying, hey, maybe this can happen. But then Pete shoots himself in the foot because of his actions. He finally says sorry at the end of it, because and somebody on Pete's behalf is sitting there saying, I think what he means to say is he didn't mean to offend. He didn't mean, and all he's doing is saying, oh, it's 1,000 degrees. I'm trying to hustle down the runway. I didn't even know, he's making all these things. And then he says, would you forgive me if I sent you 1,000 balls? and then tries to like laugh it off. And you could tell the whole thing is just very awkward. Then he finally says sorry at the end. And after that, I think it might be in episode 4, but it might have been in 3. Somebody says it perfectly. Somebody in the documentary, Pete shoots himself in the foot constantly. He's his own worst enemy. Anytime that they try that there's progress made, he does something to step it back. Now, I will reiterate my take. My take is that he should be in the Hall of Fame. If you look at the numbers purely, he should be in. It's a no-brainer. But I think a lot of the reasons that he is not in is Pete Rose himself, and I'll get into that later. And also, episode 3 starts to focus, because I remember watching a movie. I think it was an ESPN movie years ago. Remember when ESPN was doing those movies, Ryan? Like they did like Junction Boys, and they did that movie where Brian Dennehy played Bobby Knight. They did one on Pete Rose too. And I was like, who's the guy in there that he kind of like turned into his lackey? At least that's the way like the movie portrayed it. And it's getting into the relationship with Tommy. And then I was like, that's who it is. It's Tommy. And in the beginning, Tommy's very complimentary and saying how much Pete like took him in, and Pete taught him things. And then Tommy is saying he really helped with the development. He said, and Pete is saying, "Oh, I just like Tommy. I like the way that he played ball, and I wanted to see him succeed or whatever." But then you can already see a shift in the dynamic, because Tommy said, "Well, I couldn't pay Pete," so Pete was just like, "Oh, you'll become my assistant. You'll become my assistant." And then you see later in episode 3 and into episode 4. Pete basically, if Tommy is to be believed, and I don't think Tommy has a reason to lie, honestly. I don't think Tommy was used to like run drugs. Pete Rose just volunteered him for the drug running. And it's like, so you see, and then the thing that just really, episode 3 really focuses on Pete Rose said he never went to Gold's Gym. And then you see a clip of Pete Rose in a different interview talking about Gold's Gym and talking about working out there. And then he says he never lifted there. And then it cuts to a picture of him lifting. Like the evidence is right there, Pete. This is why you frustrate me so much. And it just, it was crazy. But then the other thing that I loved, and it perfectly illustrated the dichotomy of Pete Rose, and every person has two sides. But it was a great scene. I was sitting there when he got emotional after breaking Ty Cobb's record, because it goes into the quest to break Ty Cobb's record. And it was one of the reasons why Marge Schott, problematic person in her own right, brought him back, was to sell tickets, because she knew that his run to Ty Cobb's record would be like, a way to bring people back to the ballpark. And then the Reds kind of became a surprising team that year. But he got the journey to Ty Cobb's record. I really enjoyed that segment. And then he was great. He got emotional, and he said he was thinking of everyone that was responsible for helping him get there. And then immediately it cuts to him at the racetrack, and he's with the drug dealer, Don Stanger, who he said he never met because he wasn't working out at Gold's Gym when he was clearly working out at Gold's Gym. And then Tommy said, yeah, I ended up running the drugs because Pete volunteered me, which Tommy has some accountability too, obviously. But Tommy is much more forthright in the documentary, saying like, hey, I was in a bad place at this time. But yeah. And then I'll just jump into episode 4 real quick before I turn it over to you, because the main thing that got to me in episode 4, I agreed with him. There's a part where he says 30 years is a long time to eat crow, and I agree. And then he says, this country is about getting second chances. I thought we liked second chances. And he says, quote, what happened to me? And he's right. We love to forgive. But the comparison that I made in my notes is the way Andy Pennant handled the situation. versus the way Pete Rose handled the situation. Pete Rose lied about it and denied it for 14 years. Andy Pennant came out and admitted, hey, I used these PEDs. I'm really sorry about it. Like, I wish I didn't do it. Blah, blah, blah. We'll forgive you if you're honest and forthright and it seems genuine, other than Roger Clemens stepping up there and saying Andy misremembers. It's the biggest crock of crap I've ever heard in my life. But that's the difference, Pete. That's why you haven't gotten a second chance, is because you doubled down and lied about it. And even in this documentary, you're saying you never worked out at Gold's Gym. And then you cut to video footage of you being like, oh, they taught me a lot about working out. Like it's just, he is his own worst enemy. And I still can't get over the book. The book is when he finally admits it. Okay. And stay with me here. This is the last thing, the second to last thing I'm going to say. This is going to be controversial, but to me, and it's on a much different scale. I get that. I'm not accusing Pete Rose of anything. I'm not comparing these as apples to apples. But him confessing that he gambled on baseball in the book is akin to OJ writing a book called
I knew
If
it was
I
going
Did It.
there. I knew it was going there.
It has the same feeling. OJ's is worse. OJ's is much worse. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not trying to, but it has the same dirty feeling. I don't know how else to describe it. You have to question, and it's just, he is his own worst enemy. 2 steps, takes 1 step forward, 2 steps back. He can't help himself. Mm-hmm. And then he said he wasn't invited to Joe Morgan. This is the thing. Joe Morgan, the episode 4 really focuses on how big of an advocate Joe Morgan was to try to get Pete into the Hall of Fame. And it goes into their friendship. And then he says when Joe Morgan died, he said he wasn't invited to the remembrance dinner. But John Miller said that he never showed and nobody ever heard to him. He said that Mrs. Morgan reached out to him. Other players reached out to him. Pete says he wasn't invited, and the Morgans and John Miller say otherwise. They say that they reached out to him and never heard back. So which is it? And the problem is with Pete Rose's own unreliability as his own narrator. I'm probably going to go. Evidence would suggest I should believe John Miller and the Morgans and some of the other Reds players that were there. So. The documentary really, Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. There's no question about that. But as far as a person, he had some things to work on, but we all do. But it's just, that's the thing. He seems at points forthright and remorseful. And then at some points, he seems completely unapologetic and tone deaf. And it is hard for me to wrestle with that, but I enjoyed this documentary, and with that, I turn it over to you.
Yeah, it was very fitting how he asked at the end of episode 2 how this documentary would be presented and how he would be presented in this documentary, and it showed us who he was as a guy who has a bad memory, or like you said, Dustin, is a really terrible narrator of his own life.
Yeah.
And I was trying to remember episode 3 because I watched episode 3 on Monday and I watched episode 4 last night.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of my memory banks of what happened in episode 3. In episode 3, it focuses on the record breaking, but also focuses on the fact that I didn't know about this. I know about the fact that he sent his assistant to be a drug runner to make some additional cash.
Yeah.
Now, yes, baseball players compared to these days, baseball players didn't make a whole lot of money back in the 1970s and the 1980s, all the way leading up to the 1990s, before the Los Angeles Dodgers, not the New York Yankees, the Los Angeles Dodgers started this, paying extravagant amount of money for a contract to bring in free agents. So just want to give people that history lesson. It wasn't the Yankees. It was the Dodgers who started that trend with Kevin Brown in 1998. You're welcome. Going back to Pete Rose. It's amazing that just seemed like he was afraid of losing something. Yes, he was chasing Ty Cobb throughout the entirety of his career. He's chasing Ty Cobb. He wants to be known as the best. He wants to be known as the greatest hitter of all time. And yes, you could say arguably he is. Although some people in this generation would say that Ichiro is the greatest hitter of all time. Again, apples, oranges. Okay. I don't remember most of Pete Rose's career, with the exception of watching him get that hit for that broke the record, but broke Ty Cobb's record. I remember that distinctly because it was in the first few months of living here in upstate New York that he broke the record. But the drug running, I did not know about that. I that's new to me. That was completely new to me. Then it leads up to his admission. Well, first it was a denial of the gambling, which there's pages and pages and pages of.
Yes.
Lots of documentation, lots of proof. But he kept doubling down. And look at a guy a guy trying to make up money, and this is where the money comes in. It's like a chase for, it's like the constant chase for money. Like he always felt like it was never enough. It was never enough.
Yeah. And I mean, I will say, baseball players didn't make as much then as they do now, of course, but he was one of the trailblazers. I remember seeing the headline in, I forget which episode, but it's like $1 Million Man. It was either the Reds or the Phillies. I think it was the Phillies when he left.
Phillies. It was 3 years and 1.4 million.
Yeah. So I mean, when you put $1 million in those terms, he was making a metric ton of money for back then, for sure.
And adjusted for inflation, it would be at least like 8 mil.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it just seemed like it was never enough. It was the gambling, the chasing of the record. Like, he wants to be known, he wants to be revered, he wants to make as much money as possible. You see the Porsches in his the collection of cars he had when he was in Cincinnati or Philadelphia, excuse me. It just seemed like it was never enough. Like, it seemed like he was chasing pleasure a lot. And they say that addicts, the reason why they become addicts is because they get that euphoric feeling after a hit or a drink, or they land on a good bet. They just want to keep going and chase that feeling. So he's not only chasing Ty Cobb in his career, he's also chasing that feeling, that winning feeling. And he won 2 World Series as a player, with the Phillies in 1980 and with the Reds in 75 and 76. But it seemed like it was never enough. And it's a tragedy. Like, you see these precautionary tales of tragedies, of people just trying to chase greatness and trying to chase something that's always eluded them. But he had it all.
Yeah.
He already had it all. So what's there to chase,
Yeah. And I mean, some of it, I think it would link together with his drive to get him to want to be one of the best hitters to ever play the game and be the best baseball player he could be. It's the same thing that kept the gambling going. I don't think he has a stop button. No. Because even I was going to ask you, Ryan, how you felt about his time on the Expos, because I did not know at all that he played for the Expos.
Yes. Yep.
And it seemed like the documentary said he dealt with a lot of injuries and stuff, and it was kind of, people were questioning, why are you still coming back? And to me, it didn't surprise me at all, knowing his temperament as a ball player. Of course, he was going to try to play. A lot of athletes do this. Try to play and just keep it going. But he does admit he was struggling with the Expos and everything, and it set up the reunion with the Reds as a player / kind of manager, and then fully on to manager. But
I think it wasn't so much the injuries, but being held out of the lineup. Because
when he got benched, that's right.
He got benched. Yeah, he got benched. So that's, and he was. But here's the thing: he was with the Expos for 95 games, and he was traded back to Cincinnati. And like you said, Marge Schott trying to increase the ticket revenue at the gate, because back then it wasn't about the TV contracts. It was about Major League Baseball was a gate-driven league, so it was trying to get people in the seats, trying to get butts in the seats so you can make a profit. And Marge Schott bringing back Pete Rose because he was chasing Ty Cobb, it generated that much money. And all season it was every game was a sellout at Riverfront Stadium that season. Then you bring him back as a manager, he was a player manager starting in 84 all the way up until his banishment from Major League Baseball in 1990. So episode 3 was just, the drug running I didn't know about. That's when they go into the gambling, his jail sentence. The funny about the story about getting stripped search 3 times a day.
Man.
It's like, yeah, they can take your clothes off 3 times a day. It's like, I had nothing. You sent you to work. They sent you to do work for a night for like, you get up early, you go to work, you have lunch, maybe once in a while you get outside. 1990 World Series, I watched it from prison.
Yeah.
What he was saying we watched it from prison. He was saying to people, that's my team. And technically it was his team.
Yeah.
But then episode 4, that's when you start to get into the fame for being banished. And it just seemed like that's what he's known for now. And even after his death in September, he's known for not so much for being a baseball player, breaking the hits record, all-time hit king.
Yeah.
He's known for being banished from baseball. And it's kind of shocking that he didn't start a podcast like all these other players do.
Yeah.
But he made more money from not being in baseball than he did being in baseball.
Yeah.
And he was saying I go to events and I do autographs and I take pictures with people and I'm making $20,000. I'm making $20,000 for an appearance.
Yeah.
And it's just funny that he makes all this. He's making more money outside his career in baseball than he was inside his career in his career in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And then he has to trying to get reinstated back into the league and the failed efforts. And also, it's just really funny that they ask these writers at the end of the episode. And my bugaboo against the Baseball Writers Association of America on this podcast is well documented.
Mm-hmm.
And in Belly Up Sports, we even have somebody who is actually part of that association. I don't know if he gets a vote for the Hall of Fame, but it's just funny that at the end of the episode, when they talk to one of the writers from The Athletic, the senior baseball writer for The Athletic, and he says, yeah, if he was on the ballot today, heck yeah, I'd vote him in. I mean, and you talk about the society, and you talk about how us Americans, we are very forgiving. We are a nation of second chances.
Yeah.
But there's also a certain generation who is very, very non-forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
Very non-forgiving, which is a shame. Whether it be because he bet on baseball. And it was interesting to say, yeah, I bet on baseball. I always bet on baseball, but I always bet on my team to win.
Yeah.
Which could have gone into his decision making in his managerial time with his time as manager with the Reds. That could have played a factor. But it's just really funny that it could have been. That's funny, but it's a certain part of society, of our society, that is not big on forgiveness, whether it be because he bet on baseball, whether because of the statutory charges that were brought up in episode 2. That never really came to light. We never saw the woman who accused him of doing what he did back in the 70s.
Yeah.
We never got an interview. We never got an interview with her. Did she lie about her age when she met him? We don't know. We don't know because those things happen too. Like some people lie about their age to to go places or go to certain places or meet certain people.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting, and I'm spoiler for anybody who has not watched it. We cut to 10 months later after the taping of the initial part of the documentary. And they ask him what's going on. How's your life been? He says, yeah, I quit gambling.
I know.
What? I was in shock. I'm like, are you kidding me? I've been placed a bet in 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm going, are you kidding me? And they asked him, no, you're not serious. Are you? He goes, yeah, I haven't. What happened? This is it wasn't fun anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So one of two things happened. I have a couple of hypotheses as to what happened.
Okay. Yeah.
A, he lost a big bet. And he just decided, I don't want to do this. Is not fun anymore. I'm losing too much money. Somebody in his family said he had a come to Jesus moment with Pete Rose and said, Dad, or somebody, or Pete, this has got to stop. You're 80 something years old and you're still gambling. Yeah. Like, come on. Like that's for kids. That gambling's for like young men. And we come to the fact that he passed away in September. I don't know how far along taping was until the premiere in July 2024, which is a couple months before he passed on. He got some bad health news and he just decided, you know what? I'm going to spend the remainder of my days just enjoying life. And this is not a way to enjoy life.
Yeah.
So I could be wrong. I mean, this is just a hypothesis. This is just speculation. It's nothing. There's no truth to it. We don't really know. We don't really know why he stopped gambling. He just, other than the fact that he just said, I didn't enjoy it anymore.
Yeah. And that's an interesting and probably the more likely interpretation, but I have to admit my gut reaction when he said that, I laughed because the documentary did such a good job of showing his unreliability that I was like, sure you did. That was my first reaction. My knee-jerk reaction was sure you did. But I have to say the end of that was pretty depressing when they show him in the room just signing baseballs.
Yeah.
Like they're like, okay, Pete, we need you to do like I have
inventory's running low, Pete.
Yeah.
Really helps us out.
There you go. And it's like getting the old horse out of the barn just to extract everything you can out of them. It had that feel to me. And but it made me think, Ryan, I wonder what the value of a Pete Rose autograph is, because there's got to be such a stock of them because of his years of doing it, that it's probably like akin to the art world. I've heard that Bob Ross paintings are not valuable at all because he did so many of them that there's such a supply there.
Good question. That's a good thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
I never thought that myself. And then documentary ends, and a couple months after the premiere of the documentary, he passes on. So again, and the one thing that stuck out to me is that I think it was Marty Brennaman who said that if he gets back into the Hall of Fame after he leaves this realm, would be a damn shame. I agree.
Yeah, I agree with Marty there. Yeah.
I totally agree with Marty there. I got some comments in our comment section before we take a quick break. Six saying no problem. Regarding pizza, he says no problem. We don't have to agree on everything. True. Just as long as we're civil. Wait. Oh, this just in. Dustin's flying to Norway to punch Sick by his pineapple comp. Just kidding.
Never.
Regarding me saying that the Yankees were not the first to start the trend of $100 million athletes, that's not going to stop folks from blaming George Steinbrenner. I understand, but at the same time, the Yankees didn't start it. I will stand on this hill. I will die on this hill. Regarding Pete Rose and his chasing ghosts or chasing dragons, he said the sixth thing, he had no sense of contentment. I agree. He says also the economy in the U.S. in the 70s and 80s wasn't the best. It wasn't the best in the 80s until a certain president took office, and then the economy just took off. So He says, continues to say, a lot of athletes later in their careers have no thoughts about retirement or future plans. They're usually stuck in the moment. Yeah. It's interesting that we talk about the NFL and how we have the NFL has all these programs for post-retirement, but yeah, they're prisoners of the moment, and they don't think about things until they have to leave, whether they retire or they're no longer serviceable in the league and they just fade into the distance. Like you had that documentary, that one documentary Broke.
Oh yeah.
About athletes spending all their money and they have nothing left to show for it.
Yeah. That was tough.
One last quote before we take a break. Six says, to quote the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, I still got one good run left in me. We don't want to see it.
Yeah, please, Rick. I mean, for the love of everything, if you keep this up, because he's saying that he wants to do one more match, which
he did. He did it with his son-in-law.
Yeah.
And it turned out poorly. Like Undertaker was there. He's like, Rick, I will give you have all the beer you want. Just finish this match. And
yeah.
It's like, and he's like, that wasn't great. I want to do another one. It's like, no.
Yeah, Rick,
seen enough.
He's approaching, like, I don't want to be morbid, but if he tries that again, he may not make it out of the match.
Yeah.
But maybe he's got that old school mentality that you want to die with your boots on. That's the old expression, die doing what you love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to take a quick commercial break, our network mandated commercial break. When we come back, talk about our favorite athletes to wear the number 19. So stand by and stay tuned for more No Credentials Required. This episode of No Credentials Required is brought to you by Invader Coffee. For the coffee lover who wants good, quality coffee with no bullshit and no filler, Invader Coffee is an ultra-premium, veteran-owned coffee company proudly delivering only the best coffee your hard-earned money can buy. They aim to only serve the highest quality, organic, air-roasted coffee beans sourced from free trade farms all over the world. They keep things simple. The best coffee at an affordable price in order to provide you with the value you deserve for your morning boost. 100% fair trade, 100% organic coffee beans, 100% air-roasted, 100% money-back guarantee. Visit invadercoffee.com, enter promo code BELLYUP at checkout, and receive 15% off your order. Sorry, folks. The donut dealer. That's why I'm enjoying this morning.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It tastes like a donut. I was trying to find how do I define this flavor? And it's like, oh, it tastes like donuts from your local bakery.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm enjoying this morning. Dustin's got the old Dunkin' Donuts, as he said at the top of the show. But that's okay. I had Dunkin' Donuts last week on our show.
Yeah.
Because I was waiting for my order to come in. But it was delayed because of the weather. But I got my order this week. I got it on Monday. I got my 12-ounce bag of coffee. I also got a nice little note with the receipt that pointed to the donation to an active military member. And they wrote, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of service you should expect. You could expect.
Yes.
Actually, you will expect with Invader Coffee. And as the handsome bearded man said in the commercial, 100% air roasted, 100% flavorful. You get money back. You got money back guarantee. So if you don't like the coffee, and I guarantee you will like this coffee.
Yeah.
You will like this coffee. You will not in a threatening way, but you will. I think you'll enjoy this coffee. It's been in my kitchen for the past 4 years since Invader Coffee became a sponsor of the show, because I wanted to try it out, and it hits the spot every morning. Every morning, you get your morning boost, whether you get it ground or whole bean. I get mine whole bean because I like to grind my beans, have a nice fresh cup of coffee in my French press.
Oh, nice.
And other times I'll just get the Keurig cups and enjoy, and it's gonna be quick. If I need a quick boost, it's got all sorts of flavors. You got the authentic Mexican chocolate blend, the whiskey blend, Don't Cali My Texas, which is one of my favorite ones, the OG blend, the organic blend, the T-Max organic blend, the Black Heart blend, which is their espresso blend. You got Break in Case of Emergency, which is another Break in Case of Emergency, which is another one of my favorites. The Warhorse Bacon blend, that's back. The rum coffee blend is back. The General Mattis tribute blend is there. The Irish whiskey is back. It's a seasonal flavor. Donut Dealer is available. Outsider and the Chocolate Lust are sold out. So Outsider blend, you'll have to wait a while for that. And Chocolate Lust sold out. It's their seasonal blend for Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
That is currently sold out. But it's not just the ground coffee you can get. You can also get yourselves some cold brew. You can order individual cans, or you can get the case of 12. That'll be shipped to your door nice and fast. And again, you can also buy a bag of coffee for a deployed military member, which is what I did in my last order. And they were very thankful for it, which again, the receipt says a nice handwritten saying thank you. And because it's a veteran-owned company, they're giving back to the people who are currently serving abroad. And it's an awesome thing. And if you love yourself, if you want to support a veteran-owned company, this is one of those companies. You can visit the description, link to this in the description, which is our affiliate link, helps out the show with every order. But you can also save yourself some money with 15% off your order with promo code BELLYUP at checkout. It's Invader Coffee. It's so smooth. You don't have to put any of that other stuff in it. You can drink it black, which is what I do. You don't have to put any of the cream and sugar in there. Unlike some other coffee companies like Junkin' Jonuts, Car Ducks, Bulgers, those coffee companies, because those beans that they use, they get old, they get stale, and that's where you get all the acidity from. But with Invader Coffee, their specialty air roasted beans, you won't get any of that acidity, and it's so smooth, so good, so smooth. And again, you don't have to put any of that extra junk in your coffee that just adds calories. You just drink it black, and you'll have none of that trouble.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy it. I have tried a ton of the blends that you mentioned earlier. The only ones I haven't had the Black Heart blend, and I haven't had the Outsiders blend. I'll have to try some of those. But Donut Dealer, oh man, that's right up there with some of the holiday blends. Another reason that the holidays are a great time of year is some of the blends that come out of Invader Coffee. Were I home right now, I would either be drinking Donut Dealer or I'd be drinking Cookie Crumble. I still have Cookie Crumble. I've been savoring it. Because it's one of my favorites. But Donut Dealer I have in the whole bean. And, I like to do, it's part of my morning routine now, podcast days. You get up, you grind the fresh beans. It's a ritual. It's a ritual, and I really enjoy it. And Invader Coffee is a big part of my morning ritual on the weekends. And I got to tell you, I missed it today. I had to run on Dunkin', not by choice. I missed you. I wish I was home right now. Wish I was drinking it.
And of course, Invader Coffee, they get the no credentials required seal of approval. There's poppers. I'm sure he would enjoy himself some Invader Coffee.
Oh yeah.
Although sure. It's probably not recommended you give coffee to seals.
Yeah, but you know what? He might enjoy 6 pizza toppings.
I'm sure he would love anchovies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're our last segment of the show before we get out of here. Our favorite athletes to wear the number 19, and I know Dustin, you got to go back to work in a little bit, so I'm gonna have you lead off with your favorite number 19.
All right, my favorite number 19. I'm ashamed to admit, but it didn't come to me right away. But then it hit me like a lightning bolt. And if you know me and you've followed my time on the show, you might have a suspicion of who I'm going to pick. My number 19, my favorite number 19 might be my favorite baseball player of all time. And that's saying something. My favorite number 19 is Mr. Padre himself. In my opinion, the greatest hitter that I've ever seen, and the greatest hitter, in my opinion, Tony Gwynn. Tony Gwynn, I mean, his stats speak for himself. I'm not even gonna bother to bring them up. Yes, he was not a home run hitter, but he was a respected hitter in a generation that was filled with home run hitters. Tony Gwynn would have hit 400 for the season if the strike shortened season in 1994 did not happen. He would have hit it 394 394. There's a beer that was made because Tony Gwynn hit 394. I made it my mission to try that beer. I was able to find it at a local beverage center years ago, a couple of years ago now, probably about 2022. Although based on my timing of the Pepperoni Diplomacy Act, it was probably longer ago than that because I have no sense of time anymore. Tony Gwynn, he could always get a hit when you needed it. And he cared about average. He wasn't selling out for power in a generation when a lot of hitters were doing that to make money and make the big contracts. And, home runs were it's what Major League Baseball wanted. He was kind of a throwback to the old school, the hitters that came before him. Tony Gwynn was an on-base machine. And also he looked atypical. He didn't look like he was one of the greatest athletes, period, of all time. Tony Gwynn, the way he studied the game, the way he carried himself. Unfortunately, we lost him way too young. Yeah. And, his chewing tobacco was just a habit that he could not kick. But when I went to Louisville, Kentucky, you get to pick a bat to hold. You get to pick a bat to hold. And I was on that trip with my sister. She held Derek Jeter's bat. And you would think that because I'm a
she
Yankee,
did.
yeah. Oh, my God. You would think that because I'm a Yankee, I'm just going to steamroll through that one. You would think that because I'm a Yankee fan, I would have chosen maybe Donnie Baseball. Maybe I would have chosen somebody else to hold the bat. I went right to Tony Gwynn's bat. I said, I got to hold Tony Gwynn's bat. He is probably, as I get older, it's one of those things that I didn't appreciate Tony Gwynn enough in the moment. And we're going to get to another, in a few short episodes, we're going to get to another player that I will freely admit I did not appreciate enough during the moment. Tony Gwynn is a classic example of somebody that as I get older, I realize how special he was and how lucky I was to be able to watch this man hit the ball because it was an art. And he was Mr. Padre. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he defined that organization for years and always loved him, always respected Tony Gwynn, in my opinion, the greatest hitter I've ever seen.
I would agree. I'm definitely going to agree with that. And I actually looked up some absurd stats about Tony
they're
Gwynn.
Ridiculous.
In 1994, when he hit 394, he hit 397 when he was faced with 2 strikes. His batting average against Greg Maddux faced him 107 times in his career, more than any pitcher. He batted .415.
Wow.
And I think Greg Maddux was used to say that he was the hardest guy to get out.
Mm-hmm.
.415 average. Stats don't lie.
Yeah.
Stats don't lie. On 45 separate occasions, Gwynn recorded 4 hits in a game. 11 more times than he recorded a multi-strikeout game.
It's unbelievable.
He finished his career batting .302 with 2 strikes.
That's a. Do you have his career batting average? What's his career? I should look that up.
Well, I was about to get to his batting, except for his rookie season. Mm-hmm. He hit 300 every season in his career.
That's
19 consecutive. It was 19 or 16 consecutive years hitting 300. That's a record.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
And he was unheralded, I think, for a lot of time because the Padres were not good for the majority of Tony Gwynn's career. And they went to they famously went to the World Series in '98 against the Yankees only to get swept, right out. And so he didn't have a lot of run at the playoffs. And also, like back in that time, especially earlier in his career, you didn't see Tony Gwynn a lot. But also, like I said, he wasn't known for hitting home runs, so people just kind of forgot about him.
Yeah.
And you realize you're watching now with hindsight being 2020, you realize you watched one of the greatest to ever do it.
Yeah. And also continuing, 6 times in Padres history, a player has recorded 200 hits in a season. Here's a trivia question. 5 of those seasons belong to Tony Gwynn. Who had the other one?
Oh.
And it's such an obscure name.
Darren Erstad. No, I don't
No.
know.
Mark Loretta.
Oh my God. Okay. I wasn't that far off,
No.
Wow. Okay. That's a blast from the past.
And his career batting average is .338. It's the highest in the expansion era.
Man. Unbelievable. Just if you're a hitter and you want to learn how to hit, go watch tape of Tony Gwynn. Because I can't teach you anything. I could barely hit a baseball as it is. But go watch tape of Tony Gwynn.
Yeah. He was incredible. He was an incredible hitter. And if I had remembered my 19, I chose a hockey player for my number 19. But yeah, Tony Gwynn is like the guy. If you say number 19, that's the guy you're going to go to automatically as a baseball fan. I chose Joe Sakic as my number 19.
I was wondering if it was going to be Joe Sakic.
I say this begrudgingly because his Colorado Avalanche beat my New Jersey Devils in 2001. Devils should have won that Stanley Cup, but unfortunately they fell flat in Game 6 and didn't show up in Game 7. So, oh well. But yeah, Joe Sakic, one of the last to play for the Quebec Nordiques, was drafted by the Quebec Nordiques 15th overall in 1987, started his career in 1988, became team captain in 1992, and was the captain of the Nordiques / Avalanche up until his retirement in 2009. And here's one reason why I appreciate me some Joe Sakic. Because in 1997, he had the chance to go to the New York Rangers. Signed a 3-year, $21 million offer sheet. Colorado matched it, and he remained in Colorado for the remainder of his career. Because those were the days that there was no salary cap.
Yeah.
And only a handful of teams were doling out all these huge contracts. The New York Rangers were obviously the one to do it. How'd that work out for you, Rangers? So they tried to do the same thing with Patrick Elias back in the day, and the NHL rejected that contract, so he remained. So Elias remained in New Jersey. Spoiler alert for episode 26. but Sakic was one of those players who was just so skilled, and he was this was in an era where you didn't see a whole lot of skilled players. You saw a lot of clutching and grabbing. A lot of people blaming New Jersey Devils for that, but it wasn't them specifically you should blame. It was just the era. Like if you had a player on your team who was a high scorer, you're going to want to focus your energy on them. But Colorado / Quebec had focused solely on the draft and getting better. Like they had all those players from that era, from that just were so great. Peter Forsberg, he's one of those guys. Joe Sakic, trying to think of some other guys. Adam Foote, all these guys they drafted. All these guys were drafted by the Colorado Avalanche / actually no. Forsberg was included in the Lindros trade.
Oh,
so
okay.
Technically, he was drafted by the Flyers, but he was the Colorado Avalanche for the better part of his career, or Quebec Nordiques / Colorado Avalanche for a good chunk of his career, before going to, I think it was Nashville, and he ended his career with the Flyers, I think. Which is hilarious. Yeah. But Sakic did a lot of things on the ice that you didn't see a whole lot of in that era. You see a lot of it now. A lot of fast skating, high score guys could produce points. He was that guy who could do that in this era. I mean, there's only a handful of names you can think of, like Mario Lemieux, Jaromir Jagr. Joe Sakic was up there constantly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was the guy who led the Avalanche. I believe he's a career leader in points, goals, and assists in Avalanche history. And he's also a captain. He was represented Canada in the Olympics in 2002, the World Championships, World Cup, World Juniors. But not only is he a great player on the ice, he's also currently the GM of the Colorado Avalanche. And he's responsible for the team you see on the ice today, who has been very, very good over the last half decade. Yeah. And they won a Stanley Cup in 2022. He put that team together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't argue. Joe Sakic. I thought about picking Joe Sakic, because I was like, I've been picking baseball the last couple episodes, but I had to go Tony Gwynn. But Joe Sakic, like you said, I think he was kind of ahead of his time, and also relatively a modicum of health, if I remember correctly, because you mentioned the person that Peter Forsberg was traded for, Eric Lindros. Eric Lindros will forever be a case of what could have been because of his concussion issues and everything else that happened. Joe Sakic was able to he had a long career and a great career, and he also was not very often injured, if I remember correctly.
Later in his career, he was. I know in '97 he had a lacerated calf.
Oh,
but he still scored 74 points that year.
Oh, jeez.
He only played in 65 games. He scored 74 points, led the team in points. And
wow.
They got to the Western Conference Final, and they played Detroit. They lost in 6 games. That was for Detroit on their way to the Stanley Cup Final. But an amazing player on the ice, very, very skilled, but he's also a great leader. And I admire that as somebody who appreciates hockey, who appreciates leaderships, who appreciates leadership. Joe Sakic is one of those guys. So, yep. So that's going to do it for this episode of No Credentials Required. We just want to remind you before we take off, this will be on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel later tonight, so you can catch the replay. Let us know who your favorite number 19 is in the comments section. Could always help. Always get that in the algorithm. But in the meantime, follow us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Find us on No Credentials Required, and also check out our other podcasts and written articles on bellyupsports.com. On the podcast side, subscribe to the podcast wherever you find podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, and Pandora. And don't forget also to hit that notification bell on Twitter, on YouTube. That way you know when videos go up, when we're live, when show announcements go up. One more comment before we get out of here. Mr. Kevin Wilson, Belly Up Fantasy Sports, saying lots of great athletes have worn number 19, but Dustin is right. Tony Gwynn, he tops the list. I agree. On the podcast side, rate, review, comment, 5 stars. 5-star rating would be helpful. If you're on a podcast platform where you can review the podcast, leave a review, and on Spotify, leave us a comment. That way we know you're watching or listening. And we're going to get out of here. We'll be back on Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll figure out what we're going to talk about over the weekend. Could it be the return of the Loch Ness Monster free agency tracker? Could it be baseball? Can we talk about another documentary? One thing's for sure, we're going to talk about our favorite athletes to wear number 20.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, it might be a tribute episode. But in the meantime, thank you for tuning in to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are presented by Belly Up Sports. For Dustin Henry, I'm Ryan McCarthy. We'll talk to you on Tuesday.
Good morning, everybody.
Get back to work.
I will.